Even though Donald Trump got everything he asked for today, his big Independence Day spectacles, the chance to parade around with the most despised bill in recent memory, he still ended up fuming. Why? Because deep down he knows how widely hated this bill really is. He said it himself, almost like a confession in plain sight. But it wasn't just the backlash to the bill that got to him. It was who mocked him, the one person who can still cut right through his ego like a knife. Barack Obama, and we'll get into that. But first, help us out by smashing that like button. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe. It really supports independent voices like ours and helps us keep going strong. Now, before we get into Trump's full-blown meltdown and Obama's mic drop moment, we've got to talk about the latest numbers on this disaster of a bill. And that brings us to Chris Hayes, who laid it out plain and simple.
Well, it's only been a law for a few minutes now, a few dozen minutes, an hour, 2 hours, something like that. But here's something we already know about Donald Trump's big reconciliation bill. It is one of the most unpopular acts of Congress in recent history. This is not a hyperbole, and this is me not just, articulating my hunches. That is according to data gathered by Georgetown political scientist Christopher Warshaw. Warshaw found that Trump's big, beautiful bill is the second most unpopular piece of legislation of any kind in Congress since 1990. You can see there that the only bill that was more unpopular than Trump's attempted repeal of Obamacare back in 2017, which also would have slashed Medicaid and cut taxes on high earners. That, of course, failed. The bill that Trump has just signed into law today is less popular than Republicans' previous tax cuts for rich folks. Less popular even than the 2008 bank bailout, which is actually genuinely shocking to me, or the Affordable Care Act when they were passed. Also kind of surprising. I gotta think that's not great news for Republicans. And the thing about it is, it's not just because people don't know what's in it. The deeper you dive into the polling and people who know what's in it, the worse it gets. How do we do apples to apples comparisons of popularity of legislation over time?
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. Happy 4th. Auspicious occasion for talking about this. The way we do this is just by compiling the polling data, right? I mean, the polls are the same, roughly speaking, in methodology over time. I mean, if we have a bill that is, as that chart shows, 23 points underwater today, and there's another bill that's like 30 points underwater historically, the way that we can attach meaning to that is by looking at what happened after Congress or a president passed something really unpopular. So if we go back to those examples, right, after 2017, when the GOP tries to pass a historic, at that point, rollback of Medicaid and passage of tax cuts, you get the 2018 wave election, right? After 2009, when the ACA passed, so that also was unpopular at the time. It's popular now, but at the time it's very unpopular. You get the 2010 wave against the Democrats. So we look like these polls aren't happening in isolation, right? When we say something is 23 points unpopular, there are some stakes attached to that, and the historical examples bear that out.
The truth is, Trump rammed this bill through Congress at lightning speed, not because it helps Americans, but because it helps him. It helps his billionaire donors, giant corporations, and every special interest you can name. While millions lose healthcare, while hospitals close their doors, while hungry families lose access to SNAP, Trump doesn't seem to care. But what does get under his skin? Being unpopular. Which is exactly why, in his chaotic speech at the White House, he tried to spin it.
And that's why when you hear things like that, this is the most it's the biggest bill of its kind ever done by far. But we are going to have a situation, we are going to have something where people are going to realize the level of success and popularity of this bill, and sort of
He couldn't quite bring himself to lie outright and say the bill was popular, so instead, he called it the biggest, as if that's something to brag about. Fiscal conservatives, really? But even Trump isn't delusional enough to believe this bill is liked. He knows every major policy he stands on is underwater, even immigration. The one thing he swore won him the White House. He's losing ground on, and he knows it. He knows the authoritarian image he leans into just doesn't sell anymore. Which brings us to that one social media post that really hit a nerve. Obama's Independence Day message. Former President Barack Obama threw shade at Donald Trump after he made America's birthday all about himself. On the eve of Independence Day, a buoyant Trump was giddy with excitement as he worked the crowd at a rally in Des Moines, Iowa. The event was intended to be a bipartisan celebration of America's 250th anniversary. However, soon it devolved, of course, into the Trump show. He ranted about hating Democrats, used an anti-Semitic term, and rolled off his recent achievements. Trump was buoyant after Congress narrowly passed his big ugly bill. This has been a great 2 weeks, he added. Has anyone ever had a better 2 weeks? Obama was keen to remind people that the USA is not a one-man show. Though writing, Independence Day is a reminder that America is not the project of any one person. The single most powerful word in our democracy is we the people. We shall overcome. Yes, we can. America is owned by no one. It belongs to all citizens, he said. Obama continued, and at this moment in history, when core democratic principles seem to be continuously under attack, when too many people around the world who have become cynical and disengaged, now is precisely the time to ask ourselves tough questions about how we can build our democracies and make them work in meaningful and particular ways for ordinary people. Obama's pose comes after Obama and former President George W. Bush joined forces to shoot down Trump's colossal mistake to shutter USAID. In a video message to staffers on Monday, the day before USAID was folded into the State Department, the two former presidents decried Trump's dismantling of the agency, gutting USAID as a travesty, and it's a tragedy, Obama said. Bush was even more pointed, slamming cuts the president's emergency plans for AIDS. Relief with USAID is tasked with implementing. Is it our national interest that 25 million people who have died now live? I think it is, and so do you, Bush said. It wasn't subtle. It was a troll, plain and simple. And it came at a time when Americans were flooding the streets in protest. That, my friends, is the most patriotic thing you can do on July 4th. Stand up to a wannabe dictator. Contrast that with what Lindsey Graham was doing. Tim Miller nailed it last week. It's just Lindsey doing what he does best, sucking up to Trump. Let's watch the moment.
Mr. President, Mr. President, no, Mr. President, thumbs up. Okay, thumbs up.
Really?
Mr. President, can we get a thumbs up? Really? A thumbs up? That's your legacy? Lindsey, you're embarrassing. You sold out your voters for a t-shirt and a signed MAGA hat. And in return, you helped Trump gut their healthcare, slash FEMA funds, and let rural hospitals rot. Graham's turned into a sad punchline, and yet somehow, still not the biggest clown from his state. Not with Nancy Mace out here showing up to Congress in pajamas, hopped up on 2 Red Bulls and mumbling about her Waffle House order. For the record, I'm fine with peppers and eggs, but Nancy, total chaos. Still, back to what really matters. This bill. It's not just bad, it's a full-blown tragedy, and Republicans are already trying to rewrite the story, just like Scott Jennings tried and failed right here.
This legislation takes health care from 17 million people.
No.
17 million people will have fewer people will have health care after this. $1 trillion from Medicaid in order to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. You could actually just do the middle class tax cuts and not the tax cuts for billionaires, and just not do the Medicaid tax cuts and Medicaid cuts.
You know what?
And people would have agreed with that. That would have been 60-70%.
We're never going to agree
and
to
you
give.
didn't want
We're
to do
never
that,
going to agree to
'cause
give
we support-
Medicaid to illegal aliens. And
It's not illegal aliens. It's not illegal
to let
aliens.
people
You know
sit at
that
home,
as well.
able-bodied people.
See,
You don't have to
these
take
people, it's
Mira's
not-
word on that. Take Josh Hawley's word on it.
Exactly.
I mean,
He
Josh,
voted for it.
I know, but he
yes,
said it
while
was a
apologizing
tax
to
on-
his constituents.
Yes.
Take Lisa Murkowski's word
Also
on
voted
it.
for it.
Okay, who
Or
apologized
And
to
you
the
know what?
American
Or
people for
Scott,
voting for
Scott,
it. Because it's terrible legislation.
whenever you bring up the able-bodied folks and undocumented immigrants, we're only getting to like 6 million. So you have like a whole other
There's
6
also
million.
people who are
12 million.
duplicative.
You
They're
know,
on in multiple
according to
states, and
different,
there are also
depending
people
on the
who are
estimates.
ineligible for other
I'm just saying there are millions and millions of other people that you're not accounting for, and those people are going to be affected.
Children are going to lose coverage.
They are going to be affected. So I think some of this is about honesty in advertising here with
I
what's
agree.
going on.
I don't
in
think she
Capitol
should be
Hill.
dishonest about it.
You're
What's going on
right.
on Capitol
You're
Hill,
right
and
about it.
if the Medicaid cuts are the price that Americans have to pay for tax cuts for everybody, including very wealthy people, then that should be what Republicans run on proudly. Okay?
There's no way to defend these Medicaid cuts unless you're willing to lie. They'll say the cuts don't take effect right away, which is exactly why people like Josh Hawley gave the green light. He gets the political win now, and none of the consequences until after midterms. It's delay, distract, and deflect. In 10 years, they'll blame Biden. That's the strategy. But don't be fooled. One of the cruelest tricks in this whole thing, the added paperwork. They're not just cutting Medicaid, they're burying people in forms, technicalities, and bureaucratic traps. The same folks who scream about efficiency and small government now want you to jump through hoops just to see a doctor. They know it's confusing. They want it to be. It's a loophole system designed to deny life-saving care. It's not just wrong, it's pathetic. And honestly, I could keep going, but I'll let AOC sum it up better than anyone.
One of the saddest days in modern American history. This is the largest withdrawal and ending of healthcare in American history. 17 million people in our country, 17 million Americans in our country are going to lose their Medicaid. They're going to lose their ACA insurance. Small business owners are going to have their healthcare costs skyrocket, and people are going to have their SNAP and WIC cut back. People are going to go hungry. People are going to get sick on a scale unlike anything we've ever seen. And all of it is just to finance tax cuts for billionaires and the wealthiest corporations who don't even need it.
This is, without a doubt, the worst legislation passed in modern times. But now that it's out in the open, the real work begins. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So if you believe in calling this out, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you made it to the end, drop a comment so we know you're with us.